The 76ers are tanking, yes, but players maybe want to see one more win. What do we want to see? We'll break it down right here on Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? We're your hosts for Locked On 76ers. Keith Pompey, 76ers beat writer. I'm Kayla, Santiago, sideline reporter for the Delaware Bluecoats, the 76ers NBA G League affiliate. If you're watching us on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. In addition to check out our free daily newsletter on LockedOnDaily.com. You'll definitely want to check that down. We'll keep you up to date on all things 76ers, what happens in the offseason, everything in between, the conversation around players, coaches, the president of operations, the owner, and so much more. But the 76ers, they are doing what they need to do. They are tanking. But Keith, some of these players, they want to feel just one more win before the season comes to a close.
Yeah, I mean, this is normal. I mean, it happens all the time. The thing about tanking, and especially with this way when the Sixers did it beforehand. So what you do is you go out there and you play as hard as you can. You play to win. But what they do is they just put mazes out there. It's kind of like, can you solve the maze? Can you get out? Now, for the 76ers, the biggest landmine for them is that they just don't have the talent. They're 8 deep. They may have 1 or 2 regular rotation players. And with that being said, it's like it's hard for them to win. So when we're talking about tanking, we're talking about from a franchise standpoint, they're making it hard for them to win. But the players, they want to go out there and they want to give it their all. They would like to get a victory. Right now, I talked to Lonnie Walker IV, and he says, do we go out here wanting to win? I mean, wanting to lose? No. I mean, it is what it is, though. We want to finish the season strong. We want to do certain things. We want to, have good games under our belts. We want to, take a good taste in for next season. So that's what the deal is. So it's not like they're like, okay, we're going to have a mutiny, and it's not like they're shaving points. Like this team, these players actually want to win. It's just the fact that the Sixers aren't putting them in position to do so.
And looking at their schedule, too, the only game to me that's winnable is this one coming up, and that's against the Wizards at 7 p.m. happening on April 9th. So when you look at that game from that standpoint, it's interesting because I wonder what the 76ers organization is doing right now in the terms of watching around the league, because the Pelicans play the Brooklyn Nets. And when you look at that game, you say, okay, well, there's an opportunity for either team to either gain some ground or lose some ground. The 76ers to either gain or lose some ground as well. So when you look at it from that standpoint, this 76ers team, the only winnable game to me is against the Wizards. But when Jeff Dalton was kind of playing with the Bluecoats, he's that two-way player. He has just 2 games left on the season for the 76ers in terms of his contract. That was the one thing he said to me too, Keith. It was, I just want to win. I want to go out there and have the opportunity to win. And I think these guys that don't get to normally play are really just trying to compete to get to there. And they understand that the organization at this point, they have a job to do, but they're pretty secure to me in that 5th spot, unless they were just able to win out and the Nets were losing out. But at the same time, these are competitors. They want to go out there and feel good about themselves because it has been a hard season all around, but especially for these guys that are trying just to go out there and compete for something, but just keep falling short at the end.
Yeah. I mean, they want to compete for something. Now, the thing you talk about games that they could win, I also think depending on how things shake out, I expect them to lose tomorrow. I do. I really do. But depending on how things shake out, I think that they could win the final game of the season. And hear me out. So right now we look at it. You have the Chicago Bulls are the East number 9 seed, right? And so with that being said, if everything finishes the way it looks like, they'll probably play the Miami Heat. Well, that game is on the 16th, right? And so it's one of those things where, you look at it, you really want to start saying, hey, this has been a long season. If we have the 9th seed in the East already locked up, then you know what? What's the use? I mean, what's the use of playing our starters if somebody got injured, right? So when we look at that one, you have to say to yourself, like, okay, the Sixers could possibly win that game because the Bulls aren't going to play anyone. And the NBA is not going to find the Bulls in the last game of the season. Now, the thing is, if the Bulls still have a chance of basically contending and getting that 8th spot, then, you might as well cancel next Christmas because the Sixers are going to have a chance. But I think that's the thing that you got to worry about. And the thing about, and the reason I said about the Washington Wizards is because, yes, while Washington has the 2nd worst record, they want to keep it that way. They don't want a team coming behind and then probably closing out against them. And I think that what Washington did when they when they won a couple games or lost a couple games, and with the Sixers, there's some, sort of like, well, maybe we need to keep going hard. But at the same time, I hate to say it, the Sixers are probably going to play Quentin Grimes. They may sit him down, but they're definitely going to play Lonnie Walker, right? But when I honestly think that when we look at their bench, let's say Washington's bench, whereas the Sixers have a bunch of G League players and guys on 2-way contracts or guys on 10-day contracts, I look at the Washington Wizards as just a young team, with a lot of young talent. So I feel like they'll beat the Sixers tonight. Now, who knows? Knock on wood, the Sixers may boat race them today. But at the same time, I do feel like that the Sixers will probably lose that.
And the Wizards have competed in some of their games. Looking at their schedule, they defeated the Kings. They got boat raced by the Miami Heat, and then they lost to the Nets 115-112, which that was a good one actually for the NBA reverse standings in terms of the Nets beating the Wizards from that standpoint. But they did defeat the Kings on the other side too. So I'm curious to see how this will go for the Philadelphia 76ers, because I do want to see Quentin Grimes kind of play these next 3 games. I understand that people are like, well, if you play them against the Wizards, they have a better chance of winning and this, that, and the other, and I get it. But I want to see more of Quentin Grimes. I want to see him for the next 3 games of the season. He has been really fun to watch. I think he wants to continue to go out there. And you said the other night, Keith, that he's been super positive just about everything, trying to have a positive outlook, going out there and competing. So I'm curious what the 76ers will do, because at this point in time, I would like to see Grimes just play the remaining 3 games of the season. Maybe you beat the Wizards, but I do believe at this point right now, the Nets are going to gain too much ground on Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with it would be great for him to play for a standpoint, but also he played a long season. And then we got to be 100 too. He's about to become a restricted free agent. So if I'm his agent, I'm like, just like how Rich Paul was like with Tyrese Maxey, on national TV, on ESPN saying, nah, my man is shut down for the season. If I'm Quentin Grimes' agent and I know like this season has been a wash and I want my guy to get paid, I don't know if he's playing all 3 games. Now, again, from a fan standpoint, you want to see that. From a media's member standpoint, you want to see that. But at the same time, it's a meaningless game. And let's say if Quentin Grimes gets her injured.
Ooh, then it's real bad.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to get paid. You're not going to get paid. They're just going to say, yeah, we'll pick you up. We'll probably rehab you. We'll do all this other stuff. But here, why don't you sign this this below market contract? So with that being said, I wouldn't play it like all 3. And that's why I think like the final game of the season is going to be funny because like you look at it, there's going to be like all the two-way guys are going to play. The guys on the 10-day contracts now. Castleton, I think his 10-day expires right before the final game, but it's going to be the Delaware Bluecoats playing in that game. I don't think Quentin's going to play. I think they're going to give him, even still, they're also going to give him the respect that he's a regular NBA rotation guy, right?
Right.
Maybe Yabu doesn't play, right? Who else? Lonnie, I think, is going to depend on how Lonnie feels. Like if Lonnie wants to play, he'll play. If he doesn't, he won't.
He won't. Yeah. Yeah, maybe not even Kyle Lowry either, too. We saw him last night, but I don't know if I expect him to play the remainder of the three. I would like to see Grimes play through these next 3 games, but that is a good point because so many injuries and so many crazy things have happened during the Philadelphia 76ers season in 2024-25. So you don't want to count out him being fully healthy or him being able to be completely okay after 3 games. Although I would like to see him play from that standpoint. I want him to continue to show what he has to offer. And listen, from Grimes' standpoint, I hope that if it's with the Sixers, that's great. If not, some other team is going to be lucky to be able to get him because I think he can produce a lot of different things. And he's kept a positive outlook on a season that has just really gone down in shambles from that standpoint. So we'll wait and see if Grimes is going to be in these next 3 games. And we'll take a look at some other players that we also want to see coming up against the Washington Wizards, some two-way guys that have been restricted a little bit from their contract to be able to play in these last few games and now have a chance to finish out the season. So we'll touch on that and more on the other side of things. And we have to tell you about BetterHelp because this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Taking care of your mental health is just as important as taking care of your physical health. But traditional in-person therapy can be expensive, often ranging from $100 to $250 per person. And if you're somebody that doesn't want to put that much money out there, or you feel that you have a really tight schedule and you'd rather just be able to do it from the comfort of your home or even in your car via Zoom, whatever that may be, BetterHelp has an opportunity to do that virtual. That's where BetterHelp comes in. With online therapy, you get quality care at a price that makes sense, saving you time and money. Therapy isn't just for life's toughest moments. If you're having a bad week or really just overwhelmed with work or your day-to-day life, you can just go in for a mental health check-in. It doesn't have to be for anything too serious, or it can be for something serious that has happened in your life that you just want to talk through. Everything in between, BetterHelp is there. It can help with everyday stress, learning how to set boundaries, or developing positive coping skills. Having access to support when you need it can make a huge difference. Your well-being is worth it. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. So make sure you go check it out today. Okay, so Jeff Dalton has 2 games left on that 10-day. 76ers have 3 games left in the season. And we were talking a little bit before of this is the game we truly think that he's going to come back and play. He is from Upper Marlboro, Maryland, which is right near D.C., but he went to school in Washington, D.C., at high school, St. John's College. I absolutely want to see Dalton playing in this game here, Keith. I think this would be a good contest for him to come back in. And he wants to go out there. He wants to win, as he said before. And he hasn't been able to play for a little bit of time here because his contract is limited to 50 games on a 2-way, and he only had 2 games left of those 50 due to just being pulled by the 76ers as well. So he's somebody that I definitely want to see against the Wizards and probably that season finale too.
Yeah, I mean, I think you owe it to him, and we talked about this before. Here's a guy, he only had 2 games left, and you say to him, what do you want to play in front of your family and friends? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's people are going to be excited. Jeff Dalton is a guy who's not guaranteed to be in the league past this season. He's a 2-way guy, and he's a little bit older, but he's been around for a minute with these 2-ways. So yeah, it's one of those things where this is like a bucket list for him. Every time he comes to DC, there's gonna be a lot of people in the stands wearing Jeff Dalton jerseys, high school classmates, coaches, family, everyone. So yeah, you do that. And then also the last game of the season, partly because, like as we talked about before, you're going to rest certain players. But then also you don't know what his future is like. Let him play this game. Typically, that game has always been the guys who expect, like when the Sixers had stuff locked up, but the guys who were basically low men on the totem pole got a chance to do what they can do. It's funny because Tyrese Maxey's rookie year, it was him. It was him and Cole Anthony going at each other. Right now, the thing is, years later, Tyrese Maxey becomes an all-star last year. He also becomes, the most improved player. But and he showed flashes of a rookie year that he could play. Like he was a quality player for him. But in that particular game, it was like, okay, Tyrese, we're going to give you the ball and let you show us what you can do.
And I think for the 76ers, too, it's huge to have these players just to go out there and probably going to back to our first segment and kind of tying this all in, too, going out there to win because they did their job in the sense that they have some room with the Brooklyn Nets, right? They're 2.5 games ahead of them in terms of the NBA reverse standings. They're in 5th. The Nets are in 6th. And that gives an opportunity to say, okay, go out there, maybe get a win, play some guys that are from here, do what you need to do to feel better about yourself at this point, because it has been a really tough season. And it's interesting because talking to Jeff from a Blue Coat standpoint as well, that's kind of what he emulated too. He said, personally, it's been a really tough year for me. As the team, clearly, it's been a tough year with the Blue Coats and the 76ers, but he still wants to go out there and show what he can do. And for somebody like Jeff Doughton, you can say he's been passed up upon a little bit with this team. Now, you look at Ricky Council, playing with him last year, him going above him and getting that senior due. You look at Justin Edwards as well. You look at Jared Butler coming in, 2A immediately elevated too. So for somebody like Jeff Doughton, it's more than just going in there playing against his hometown. It's saying, all these guys have risen above me, and now I get an opportunity to actually close out my season on an NBA team and actually go out there and play some minutes.
Yeah. Now, here's my question for you. Last game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
The Sixers are tied with or tied with the New Orleans Pelicans. If you're Nick Nurse, are you coaching a win or not?
No. I would say no. My immediate answer is no, because if you have an opportunity now, looking at the Pelicans schedule, though, the odds of the Pelicans losing that last game are kind of slim to none. It's against the Thunder. And I know the Thunder might sit all their guys, but we've seen the back of Thunder demolish the 76ers. But at the same time, I don't think you do, because you have to look at it from an organization standpoint. What are the best odds for you to be able to get a good draft pick? It's going further and further in those NBA reverse standings. So for me, I would say no. If I'm Nick Nurse, if I'm the organization, if I'm Daryl Morey, if I'm Josh Harris, what are your thoughts on that? I'm curious.
I mean, no, you gotta can complete the tank. I mean,
yeah, you gotta do your job.
Now, here's the thing. I don't think it's a guarantee that based off of what I witnessed when the 76ers lost to OKC. Yeah. And OKC basically were without their top 7 scorers, right? I don't think it's a guarantee that New Orleans wins that game. I just don't. Because I feel like the guys in New Orleans are like checked out. These young dudes in OKC are like looking at an opportunity to get some playing time, right? And they're looking at it also like, I want to be in the playoff rotation. So on paper, you would think that, okay, New Orleans will automatically win it. But I don't know after what I witnessed, because remember, they were up on the Sixers by like 40-something in the fourth quarter.
It was embarrassing.
The bench players, you know what I mean? So with that being said, yeah, if I had that opportunity, I'm going to try to tank. Now, again, the players are going to play hard. They're going to do what they want to do. I mean, what they're going to do, talking about the Sixers. But at the same time, like, I'm not relying on New Orleans getting that victory,
I'm not either, but I'm of the full belief to take care of your own business and see what's to follow. Because, yeah, you could play now. Let's take a look real quick, too, before we send things to break. That game is on Sunday, April 13th at 3:30 p.m. We're talking about the Pelicans taking on the Thunder. I don't see a world where, the Pelicans win that game. But the 76ers game is at 1 p.m. So the Sixers play first. So if you're in that situation, if I'm Nick Nurse and the organization, I'm saying, let's take care of business and just see what happens. The Pelicans probably not going to win that game against OKC backups, but at the end of the day, you can only control your own destiny from that standpoint. And I just think at this rate, all you can do is try to go down and down and down if you're the 76ers to try to secure a top 5 draft pick in this upcoming NBA draft, because there is a lot of talent coming in from college, and the 76ers, if they want a future and they want to get better and they want to be elevated, they need some youth, they need some good players that can come in and try to make an immediate impact. So I'm going to say Nick Nurse, try to lose that game regardless, because you play at 1 p.m. so you kind of control your own destiny from that standpoint. But that would wrap up the season for the 76ers and the Pelicans. So it'll be interesting to see where we're at from that standpoint in terms of the tanking standings, the reverse standings, everything in between, with these teams just trying to get a higher draft pick. But we'll continue on more 76ers. They face the Wizards here tonight, and a big game really for both teams in terms of who is the worst of the worst on that end. But we'll touch on that and more on the other side of Locked On 76ers. And with Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%, plus you also get 4% APY on your cash and non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate subject to change. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year from your first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Make sure you go to Robinhood.com/boost. Over 8 times the national average savings account interest rate claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November 18th, 2024. Robinhood Gold Financial LLC Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC, so make sure you go check out Robinhood Gold today. And then there were three games left for the Philadelphia 76ers. They are in Washington at 7 p.m. in D.C. That is happening. Tip-off is here tonight. So some players I'm looking at in this game, I would say Jeff Doughton. I want to see him play clearly in terms of being in his hometown, having those 2 games left. Ricky Council, we talked about this yesterday. He's somebody I really need to see kind of turn it up in these next 3 games, because if I'm Ricky Council, I'm very worried about my positioning right now on this team and the future of his contract, whatever that may be, with the Philadelphia 76ers. And Jalen Hood-Schifino is also somebody I've been really excited about. You mentioned him yesterday. We didn't get too much into it, but just the way that he plays at that guard position, being able to go on the dribble drive. He played really successful with the Delaware Bluecoats. He's also another player that I kind of look at and say, okay, go and get yours in these next 3 games and see what the 76ers think about him going into next year.
Yeah, the biggest thing about these games is kind of like you look at it from a standpoint, and you're scouting G League players, and you just want to see how they can compete against backup NBA players, right?
Right.
So it's really for maybe are they going to deserve a 2-way or something like that. My only concern about the Atlanta Hawks game is I feel like the Hawks boat raced them twice, right? Without their players. If we look at it, it's going to be the equivalent. These games, I think, are really, both of them are going to be the equivalent of G League games, all 3 of them. So, with that being said, I'm expecting all 3 of the guys that you talked about to have good games when they play. The problem is, like, I think that for me, if they would have gone up against, let's say, the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Lakers have something to play for, right? The Lakers right now, the 3rd seed in the East. To me, I think we will get a fair representation of what Ricky Council can do. Now, to your point, Ricky Council has been struggling as of late. So he needs to hit some shots. He needs to do stuff, or he just needs to go out and play the way he plays. That he plays without thinking. So to me, I think that Hood Schifino, who was a 1st-round pick, a McDonald's All-American, going up against these G League type of guys, no offense to them, but you expect him to shine. You know what I mean? Ricky Council, let's see what he can do. I look at Jeff Doughton. I mean, he's an older guy.
It's not like he's young. Yeah, right.
So he should also dominate. And not only that, like, let's be real, like, he was a G League All-Star. So these games are nothing but, I hate to be ill, but for the most part, they're G League players dressed wearing NBA uniforms and playing in NBA arenas right now. That's what it is.
It's the realness of it, honestly. But, I do want to bring up just these Eastern Conference standings, because this doesn't affect the Sixers really at all because they're not in playing contention. But when you look at it right now, so we talk about the Heat and the Hawks, right? Those are 2 teams that we look at in terms of the 76ers, of course, playing the Heat a night ago, the Hawks coming up. Now, it's interesting because the Hawks right now in that 7-8 game. So that 7-8 game, essentially in the play-in, if you lose, you get a chance to play again in terms of the winner of the 9-10. So the Hawks have 37 wins right now. They're 37-41. The Heat 36-43, but the Bulls, they're 36-42 in that 9th spot. So I do think some of these are big games for those teams because of how quickly that could shift. Granted, I do think before the Hawks play the 76ers, that might already be predetermined because the Hawks play the Magic coming up. They also have the Nets, which that should be a win for Atlanta, and then they play the Sixers. So that might already be determined in terms of the Eastern Conference standings. And when you look at the Bulls on the other side here, their schedule, kind of a bit of the same. They have the Cavs, which should be a loss, and then the Heat, which would be an interesting game, then the Wizards, and then the 76ers to finish off. So yes, those games and those standings might be predetermined at that time, but if the Hawks get to the 76ers and they're still fighting to try to stay in that 7-8 spot, you never know what could happen from that standpoint. They might put their guys out there, and then maybe we can see these kind of G League players go up against NBA talent. But once again, Keith, those might be predetermined before we get to that point with the 76ers.
Yeah, the only thing about that is we look at the last 2 games, the Hawks start. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I don't think we'll see that. You want to know why? Because they beat the Sixers bad the last 2 games by resting starters.
They know they can beat them with their bench, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, because their bench, like, let's face it, their bench guys are actual NBA guys. You know what I mean? They got quality guys coming off the bench. So with that being said, yeah, it like you would say, okay, let's go here, let's do this, let's do that. But, the 76ers, they're looking at it like, okay, well, we played a back-to-back, so we had to pick and choose to see who can play and who didn't play. And, so the one time, the starting point guard will play against them, what's his name, Trae Young?
Yeah,
so
Trae Young.
The first time Trae Young didn't play, but then the second time he did, because what they didn't want him to do is play on back-to-back, so they felt like they didn't need him, So that's my only thing. And I don't really think we're going to get a lot out of this as far as, like, this is just me. I think we know what they got. You know what you can do. If you need to play in a G League game, the equivalent of a G League game to prove to the coaching staff that you can play, you got a problem. I honestly think. I think that right now we saw all you got to do is look at the recent rotations and see who's starting and who's not, and who's getting the bulk of the minutes and who's not, and you get a better idea of who's coming back. or who they hold in high regard. You know, that's the thing right there. That's it. Because the problem is right now they got an overflow of wings.
They
We're going
do.
to be
Yeah.
real. They got an overflow of wings. Now you got Lonnie Walker in the mix. You know, Kelly Oubre is going to be playing. You know, it's just they have an overflow. So some of these guys, they could be out because their guarantees are their contract is not guaranteed. So, you know, that's what they got to think about. Now, they've been auditioning for a month now.
They have.
A month. And so I don't think these last 3 games mean anything. I think these last 3 games now are like, look, we were in the locker room yesterday. Dudes were talking about, yeah, I'm gonna be out of the city on the 18th. You know what I mean?
They're
That's where
going
the
on
focus
vacation.
is.
They're ready.
That's where
They're
the
ready to
focus is
go.
right now. Yeah, it's like, you know, they checked out. You know, beforehand there was everyone on the road trip. There wasn't a lot of people in Miami, not the way you thought it was going to be. Like normally go to Miami, oh, okay, we're going down there for a couple of days. Nah, it's like, okay, I'll see y'all when y'all get to DC, or I see y'all when y'all get to Philly. People checked out.
They are, and 3 games left. That's all there is. Now, I will say one player, though, I think that I would like to see across these 3 games real quick before we send things off is Marcus Bagley, just because his sample size has been a little bit smaller getting his second 10-day contract. We saw him with the Blue Coats. I alluded to it before. I was a little bit surprised when he got the bump up, to be honest. He's a really aggressive player. He goes out there, he plays hard, but his numbers weren't as good as some other numbers on the Delaware Blue Coats. But with that being said, clearly Nick Nurse likes him to get him, wanted to evaluate him a little bit more. So Marcus Bagley is somebody I kind of look at through these next 3 games as well. So we will wait and see. This is going to be not a great game to look at for the 76ers coming up, but hey, it could help a little bit in the NBA reverse standings. So a game that we'll definitely be looking at and analyzing after from that standpoint. So the 76ers tonight, they take on the Washington Wizards at 7 p.m. in DC, and they are looking to close out their season. We'll see if they can get one more win before it all wraps up. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On 76ers. For Keith Pompey, I'm Kayla Santiago saying so long. Make sure you check out our free daily newsletter that is on LockedOnDaily.com for all things Philadelphia 76ers, and we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.